You know, the good thing about all of us is that we're not living with our parents and we're not in the basement.
I am literally in the basement, though.
You're not living with your parents.
I am not living with my parents, but I am at my parents' house for the holidays.
My father's ashes are actually in the next room of the basement. Does that count?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's pretty dark.
Cool. Yeah, really.
Yeah, you know.
Well, I also had him burned in a Vader suit. No.
Yeah, I was thinking of that joke, but I'm like, I know what I can do for lighting. This is my book reading light.
Wait, hold on a minute, guys. What's that? No, we'll change the bedpan later. Okay. Sorry.
Mom, I'm doing a podcast!
Sorry, that was my nurse droid.
Let's get right into it. Spoilers, full spoilers. Queel is freaking dead. And now IG-88 or IG-11 is dead too.
Rip Queel.
Seriously, I had hope that... Wait, David, I'm looking at your beanie cap thing. I see a bunch of little... Oh, there's Chicago stars. For a second, I thought they were IG-11 eyeballs.
They could be. That would be a great hat. I'm sure they'll come up with that by the time season 2 comes out.
Not that it is passed on in the line of fire.
Hey, you know what? If this show can get all the kids to walk like IG-11, then imagine what their posture is going to be like when they're in their 80s.
Well, he's at least limber. He's moving his arms around and everything. He's not hunched over a phone. Right. So yeah, I'm all for that.
I would like to see. Exercise. I would like to see IG-11 maybe have his own just short series on Disney Plus, and it's just yoga positions.
That sounds like a bit of a stretch.
A new category on Pornhub, IG-11 nude yoga.
Wow.
Right.
He just went totally down there, didn't he?
Yeah,
he's down the
Sarlacc pit.
He's in the gutter with Pennywise.
Yeah. Besides, it wouldn't be IG-11; it would be IG-69 on Pornhub. Anyhow, let's
I don't know what that means.
69.
Sure.
Order 69. I'm still trying to get Palpatine bumping uglies out of my head.
Well, save that for the next installment.
All right.
I did send a video for you guys to help it.
I saw that. You're sick individual.
I did not have a chance to look at it, but maybe I'll link it as part of the show notes, or maybe not, depending. I want to get kicked off of YouTube.
R2 didn't like that.
Oh,
he's leaving.
So let's talk about something that we are in sore need of on this show. We need some redemption. So let's get into it.
Oh yeah,
all right.
There's an episode to talk about.
Yeah. So this is the finale. This is the longest episode, I think, right? At 47 minutes. Is that right?
I think there was another one at 48. Wasn't there?
I thought there was something. I thought there was another one over 45 at least.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I was going to say it felt long, not in a bad way, but in a way that, this is the big finale and they're not going to cheap out at some little half-hour thing. They really gave it some room to breathe.
Can I start off with a question?
Why did they pay homage to the Halloween second remake with the two cops talking endlessly?
Oh, boy.
Man, I didn't make that connection.
At least they didn't have the doctor.
Sudeikis punch a baby was pretty weird,
My wife flinched when Sudeikis punched Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Damn, man. It was
so that was
Disney's we won't kill the baby, but we'll beat the fuck out of it.
So those two speeder troopers, the biker scouts, that was Sudeikis and who else?
And Adam Pally.
Adam Pally?
Yeah, he's been in a bunch of movies, mostly in comedic roles. He played, what was that movie that played at the Chicago Critics Film Festival a couple of years ago about the nuns with Aubrey Plaza? I love that movie. I'm blanking on the title.
Yeah.
Don't make that face, because then I'm thinking about IG-11. What? No. But yeah, he played in that movie. He played a wacky guard as well. So hopefully he's not typecast. But yeah, so it starts off. David, I totally walked all over the point you were going to make. What were you going to say?
It was just a question. So for all the people that are complaining about, what are you doing?
Oh, sorry. I was adjusting the volume.
Get your fat hand out of my face. For all the people that were complaining about plot and narrative and where's this going, the title of this is called Redemption. So, did you guys get any redemption? Those of you who were bemoaning each episode, or
hey, I was not bemoaning each episode.
I know, but I'm not talking just about you guys, but anybody listening who is like, what's the point of all this? Where's this going?
Oh, for sure. And I think
you could still skip those 3 episodes.
No, I mean, honestly, this complete 8-episode arc did something that I didn't think it could do, which is make me want to go back and watch episode 4, because that's where we meet Cara Dune, right? Wasn't that her first episode?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first of the standalone A-Team episodes. So yeah, I don't have any issue with that, and I think we can talk kind of the overarching season in the next installment that we discuss. But yeah, I mean, episode 8 is a perfect encapsulation of what this series is and will hopefully be into season 2. Anybody who's got reservations after watching Redemption, I think, is probably just one of those cartoon YouTube Star Wars haters who just can't love anything. And that's a broad generalization.
Just someone whose like automatic title is Star Wars Chapter 7 is trash. This show is a disaster just to get attention. Yeah. And then they don't even have any good points. They just scream.
Yeah. Right. And I know there are people who get cast as that, and perhaps sometimes unfairly, but I mean, The Mandalorian episode 8 is, I think it's wonderful Star Wars. And, we won't get into
television.
It is. And I won't get into it right now, but I thought that there was an action scene in this that's about 5 minutes long, and it's when IG-11 is ripping through the town with Yoda strapped to him. That was more exciting and interesting to look at than any of the 2.5 hours almost of episode 9, which is just, it's a travesty. And I think, it's just, we at least have great Star Wars on TV.
Yeah, that's the nice thing is because we have it on TV is that, we have more time to get more nice Star Wars on TV. I'm really excited about the Obi-Wan show. Someone made a fan film for it that was really good. Like, the guy who played Obi-Wan was like, damn, man, dude's good. And I would like to see where they go, where maybe Obi-Wan is either tempted by the dark side or he fights with his own sort of regrets as to how they pushed Anakin. And I think this is the best way to expand Star Wars beyond a motion picture, because I think this will be a great sort of stepping stone, a great learning lesson for Star Wars as to, when you give creators time to make something, you get really good results. And I think the second season, although they're filming it ahead of time, it's not coming out until fall of next year that they just announced. Right. So yeah, I'm really great at it. Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be curious as to if anything drops. Like, I doubt anything else will drop Star Wars, wise as far as on Disney Plus before then. But I wonder if they'll finish. Maybe they'll drop, a Falcon and Winter Soldier by then, or next summer or May or something like that. It's quite possible because I believe they're filming that now. So if they spread these things out enough on Disney Plus, it could work. And I think, this is the template that any, live action Star Wars or even, Marvel TV series. I'm not going to count, was it Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? That's because it's just horrendous. But however they do that, this is the template. I mean, it's you follow this kind of recipe, you get great directors, you get you could go for certain genres in each episode. That's what we found here was with we talked about the Prison Break episode. It was was a prison break and kind of a slasher flick. You know, it was kind of cool. And this is just this has elements of that different genres too. It's kind of a rescue mission. But this is, by and large, this is totally Taika Waititi through and through.
Mm.
You know, and you could tell right from the get go with the banter between the biker scouts, and then you know, just he's back as, you know, IG-11, you know, full throttle on the speeder bike, full throttle, and figuratively and literally. But you know, it's just entertaining, and we also learn a lot in this final episode, a ton.
Oh yeah, it's like I want to say it's information dump city, but that kind of has a negative connotation. I feel like we learn a lot in kind of this rapid fire dialogue, but it's dialogue under duress. Like they're in the process of being attacked and possibly, you know, blown up by what was it, Moff Gideon. Yeah. And that wonderful, you know, this is a mini siege movie with all this stuff coming out. We learned the Mandalorian's name is Din Djarin.
Yep.
We learned that Cara Dune was originally from Alderaan. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And help me out with something. They're talking about this special cannon that they've mounted, and Moff Gideon makes reference to the fact that Cara Dune should be very familiar with this weapon, the predecessor of this weapon. I'm like, are they implying there's Death Star tech in this mounted gun?
I think that those heavy artillery guns, I think they call them a web artillery gun or something like that. They were probably attached to either ships or cannons and would kind of mass obliterate people. And she probably saw some of her fellow shock troopers mowed down by these guns. It didn't seem too much different from, I think, the heavy artillery gun we saw in the first episode at the end when he acquires Baby Yoda. The child. Don't know his name yet. And so, like, that's when he picked up that gun, and he did it again. Mandalorian did it again in this episode. But yeah, it's got like 3 different components to it or something like that, and it seemed to be quite a threat to Carl Weathers' character, Grief and Cara and Mandalorian, who were kind of trapped in that bar. There was a great moment that I picked up. I watched it a couple of times, but there's this great moment that Carl Weathers has when I think he sees. It's when they realize that IG-11 is like causing a commotion, causing a ruckus, and some of the shock troopers and stormtroopers out there are turning their attention to what's happening, you know, because it's coming their way. And like, camera goes briefly to Carl Weathers, and he's like really quickly like downing a drink. Like, I thought that was a great little touch. Like, I'm gonna need this. It was fun.
Yeah, there's I don't want to call it a hole, but it was sort of like a Shaun of the Dead Winchester Tavern moment, towards the middle of this, where they're setting up this gun, and as you mentioned, David, it's got a lot of elaborate components. Meanwhile, inside this bar, they're trying to bust through a sewer vent that will let them escape through these underground tunnels. It's taking a long time to set up the gun, and then finally Moff Gideon says, all right, you know what this gun can do? I'm going to give you till sundown to make a decision. He like looks at the sky. I'm like, it looks like maybe mid-afternoon. Like, what is he doing? And then he leaves. And then after IG-11 comes around and starts mowing everybody down, and then Mando gets out with the giant gun, starts using it. Like, Moff Gideon just kind of comes around a corner like, oh, I was having my afternoon tea and I heard a ruckus. Like,
totally.
What was he doing?
He had a hot lunch date.
He had a dumb bad guy, intentional writing dumb bad guy decision, so that, you know, our heroes could escape. Which, I don't know. I think that's excusable. I'm really glad with the way that they revealed the Mandalorian's face, where it wasn't really a big deal.
That was
where,
cool.
You know, he said, I'm not going to show my face to a living being. And I knew the line was coming right as he said it, where IG-11 said, well, I'm not a living being. And he saw it. It was actually kind of a really sweet moment. And then we go back to it. Now it's like, yeah, we know what he looks like, and it's not a big deal.
He looks kind of like Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, he kind of looks like that dude. Yeah.
I still can't get over the fact that when we were talking about
I know what you're gonna say. Equalizer 2.
He was Justin Trudeau. Like, that's the guy.
He's kind of a chameleon.
Yeah. And I had like a miniature gasp because I wasn't sure they were going to show his face. I said gasp with a P.
Totally
all right.
The show made me fart, guys. No, but I wasn't. I thought that
I'm
they would
farting
do like
right now.
Yikes! Thank God we're only in 3D and not 4D.
Yes, it's not in television.
Whoa! I thought that they were going to do like a cutaway or something, like cut back to what Cara Dune and Grief Karga were doing in the tunnel or something. I didn't know they were going to show his face. And then when they did, it was kind of sweet. But I also got the feeling, and I hope this is right, that this was like the one time. Like they're gonna allow us to. Yeah, they're like, okay, you guys, here, we'll just get it over with. It's kind of like, like teenage sex or something. Like there's all this build up, all this mystery, all this suspense. You get over like, oh, that was it. Okay, now we can go back to whatever.
They probably said to each other, "This is the way we're going to show this."
Are you saying that the first 7 episodes were foreplay and this was the reveal?
It was definitely the climax of the shit.
I mean, we needed it, and just like sex for the first time is kind of disappointing,
The cool thing about
hey, I smoked a cigarette afterwards. No, I didn't.
The cool thing with that is, that when they come out with, they're gonna at some point they're gonna have an action figure where you take off his helmet and here's this like his head's all like beaten up and bloody and.
Can you squeeze on the blood like with the cut up like Kylo Ren mask?
You put your finger in the back of the action figure's head and your hands are red.
Yeah.
No. That sounds awful. But we did get some more great Baby Yoda moments, biting.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God, it was so cute.
Yeah, I seriously, I'm gonna pre-order both the Funko Pop and the plush, and if they have like a giant size one that's bigger than my house, I'll get that too.
You're gonna have them all over your shelf like porgs.
Yeah,
I still have not purchased a porg, unfortunately.
Oh well, that can be arranged.
Hey, I thought porgs were cute until I saw the child. The Baby Yoda, I should say, clarify.
I do want to see Baby Yoda interact with more like, hopefully season 2, like more like creatures his size and, something like that. Just to, because all the adults are like always like, oh, how cute, or oh, ow, it's like I went, like when they were interacting with on that planet where they were defending the village and the kids were playing with them. I'm like, that was just sublime. So something like that where he's interacting with, creatures or beings about his own size. That would be fun.
The ones who aren't taken with him, because he's just so cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what are
reconnect with his family? But if we have like a bunch of goofy stuff where like him and like baby Gungans or baby Ewoks are interacting, then it's like, oh no, they're doing it again.
Yeah, we all know what happened the first time we met another Star Wars family, and that was the holiday special, and that didn't go over so well.
I watched that on Christmas.
Lumpy. Remember, we all know Lumpy.
Yeah.
From Leave It to Beaver?
Kinda.
Who was the one that was watching like the music video / porno video?
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the cool thing too is we also get like another upgrade to the Mandalorian. I mean, he finally gets his own signet, and it's basically an original signet. It's not attached to anybody else but him. And this was given to him when they were underground and hooking up with the armorer, and she gave him his own signet, and it's basically a clan of 2, and that's pretty cool. It's something that obviously meant a lot to him, and
well, we really see what these guys sacrificed by trying to defend each other, because so many of them wound up dead. Trying to save the Mandalorian, and you really get a true sense of respect for them, because as we found out through the information dump of his childhood, which I think was, as you said, it wasn't a bad thing, it was a good thing, because this was something where we want to know about his past. What do we know about it? What do we know about it? We just go to little snippets. Well, here's the full Thanksgiving dinner of it, and once you find out that he's a foundling, once you find out he doesn't like droids, as I predicted, because a battle droid tried to kill his family, but he was rescued by a fellow Mandalorian who had the Boba Fett rocket pack. Then we find out that why he goes by this whole Mandalorian creed. Not a race, but a creed. And it's really just it really kind of ties everything together. And this is an episode where you want to see more of the show, and it's something where you get to know why all these characters really connect to each other so well. I mean, IG-11 had that wonderful heroic moment where his self-destruct was a moment to save everybody.
Yeah.
And we know that Moff Gideon, Giancarlo Esposito, is going to come back because he had I think they called it a dark saber.
Yes,
correct. And
it's an ancient lightsaber.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things you would see from Knights of the Old Republic when you're fighting the old Sith soldiers, and they look like swords, but they don't show in the game that they're like not metal, but like they're electrified at the end, so a lightsaber wouldn't just cut through it. And I guess that's connected to the Clone Wars on season 2, episode 20 or something like that.
That's a good guess, a very specific guess.
I was Wikipediaing it, so
best episode ever.
Okay, first episode ever. So it's connected to the Clone Wars, where that's Disney building their new canon, you could say. Because the expanded universe is gone, so it's like, well, here's our expanded universe, and it's nice how they're incorporating it into a show like this. And I think even in Rise of Skywalker, they did with all the Jedi voices. When Rey was. Can I talk about that movie?
Yeah.
When Rey was dying, and having all the Force people help her shoot her magic glowy thing at the Emperor, and I'm happy with how they're building this universe through the show. And the show really went out with a bang, even with the 3 interchangeable episodes that are episodic. They are very enjoyable. You have your Dances with Wolves episode, you have your heist movie episode, and then the episode with that douchey actor who talks shit about the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah, that's Bobby Cannavale's son.
Oh my god!
Oh, is that who he is?
That would make a lot of sense.
Because I knew he had the last name. I didn't know that they were actually related. That's cool.
I'm sorry, but if you make your kind of acting debut, or at least spotlight debut in a Star Wars series, don't go trashing something else. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's like talking shit about your coworkers. Like, don't fucking do it. It's just stupid.
I will stand up for Bobby Jr. and just say, if you work at Little Caesars and it's your first day and you find out that the boss is pissing in the pasta sauce, you say something. And I think that is an appropriate analogy for Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, we'll save that.
I mean, I'd give it a few years before he could say something.
But I think I just want to rewind the tape a bit, because I still am not familiar with the Clone Wars. I think I watched the short, when they had the 5-minute kind of episodes back in forever ago, before they had the actual series.
That was not really. That was when Gendy was doing it.
Right. So
that's different animation. Yeah. So the Clone Wars,
the new ones, the newer ones are the 3D animated ones.
Right.
Right.
You could skip the Clone Wars movie because it was pretty bad. But if you want to be a completist, you could check it out, because that's the introduction of Ahsoka, which was Anakin's first basically Padawan.
Yeah,
and she's a great character. Yeah. And I would say this about the Clone Wars animated series: it is great, but you got to give it you got to plow through the first season, and then it gets much better, and it starts to really broaden and expand the Star Wars universe that we know, and then after that, you got to check out Star Wars Rebels, because that's, I think, even better. And now it's interesting because both of those animated series have the Darksaber in them. It's just being wielded by different people. But there's really some great episodes in each series. The cool thing is Mandalorian season 2 doesn't come out till fall. You got plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah.
Clone Wars and Rebels, and it's definitely well worth it, even if you just treat it like, I'm watching one episode a week like you do Mandalorian. But it's definitely, there's a lot to take in and absorb. And at first, honestly, I was thinking, when it was airing, I was like, do I really want to go back to the prequel universe thing? But it really does expand on things, and it makes it really interesting. It's like the Clone Wars, it feels like 1,000-year war, but it really goes into some, it touches on Mandalore, it touches on the Mandalorians, it touches on the Civil War that was breaking out during between the Mandalore people. So it's really cool. I mean, obviously it resurrects Darth Maul, as you probably know, but it's some very interesting stuff there.
Yeah, the whole reason I brought this up is... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the only reason I brought this up, and we're kind of down this rabbit hole, is when Moff Gideon pops out of that TIE fighter with the black... I was calling it a black lightsaber. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that it was connected to anything. I thought, we'll find out more about what this is in season 2, but apparently it has a history. Now, you said the black saber or whatever shows up or the Darksaber shows up in a couple of those episodes.
Yeah.
You said the black saber. Is there only one? Is it like a special thing?
There's only one. It's an ancient, it's like a mythical ancient lightsaber. It's called the Darksaber, and it was made by the first Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Council, years ago.
Yeah.
Inducted into the Jedi Council?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's an episode where, I forget which episode it is, but in the Clone Wars where there's certain, let's call them younglings. I know that conjures up a horrific scene, but there's certain younglings of different races that are being trained, and there's this moment where they're making their own lightsabers, and there's even a young Wookiee, and he makes his lightsaber out of wood, like bark, tree bark, wood. And, of course, all you have to do is you're just making a case for the Kyber crystal. So,
and for the holiday special.
Yeah, okay. But, so it's interesting what kind of ground the Clone Wars series and Rebels covers. It's really cool.
Where can I skip the Clone Wars and get to the good part? Because, I've been on the first season. I got through, the first 5 or 6 episodes, and I'm like, okay,
I know.
This episode, they're gonna rescue R2. They're gonna shoot a guy.
There's definitely some standalone episodes where it's like, okay, we're just following the droids, but it's you just kind of plow through it, and it definitely, as when you look at it as a whole, you're kind of glad you just kind of waited out some episodes, and just because it just makes it a more full and enriching experience. But I hear you. I mean, like I said, you have to plow through the first season because it feels somewhat repetitive, and there's a lot of episodes for each season. I mean, I was like, wow, I can't believe they got away with this. But I think that was it went from, I think, the Cartoon Network to then Disney Plus. I think I'm not Disney Plus, but what was it called? Disney X.
Fox.
Disney X, I think.
Oh, XD, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Disney XD. Yeah.
Disney,
so it went from I think Cartoon Network to Disney XD, and So it would be. I know that they're bringing back. There's going to be one more season, I think, of the Clone Wars. It was announced at Star Wars Celebration last April, and I'm not sure if that's coming out. It might come out before, sometime in 2020, maybe before Mandalorian season 2. And I think the idea was to go back to some of the drama that was happening on Mandalore. So we'll see. It's funny when you go through the Clone Wars and some of the episodes on Mandalore, you do encounter Obi-Wan Kenobi's one true love. It's very interesting.
So that's what they're gonna do with Kenobi.
Maybe.
Yeah. Do some Kenoboning. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
This is true. You are sorry.
Yeah, I immediately I'm like, this is the dumbest pun.
All right. So the one thing, last thing I want to touch on is I did like IG-11's sacrifice. But it was weird because at the same time I'm thinking this is really lovely. I'm also thinking back about Terminator 2 when he's lowering himself into the lava. But it's one of those weird moments. There's a few of those moments throughout the show where I kept thinking about other things and other moments that usually I kind of hate when TV shows do that, or movies even. But in this instance, it really pulled it off. It's a new setting. There's genuine emotional stakes with this character, so they're not just carbon copying something. It felt original, even though I'd seen it before. There was the moment where they referenced something that happened in this very episode during the flashback where you see the little kid Mandalorian. He's being Kid Mando, I guess, being rescued by the actual Mandalorian who saves him, and he's flying up, and you see him looking over the shoulder as the ground is getting further away. Yeah. We see that reflected back again with the child as he's being whisked away by the Mandalorian. That phrase from George Lucas popped into my head. It's like poetry, it rhymes, and I hate hearing that because it's just it speaks to the kind of I'll call it the lazy repetitiveness, especially in the new trilogy. But in this case, I think it totally worked.
Well, when it works, the calling back is something as they call in screenwriting a plant, it works properly. The plant that we got earlier from the Mandalorian in episode 3, when he saw the guy with the rocket pack, he said, "I gotta get me one of those."
Right.
So we see how it comes, and luckily it wasn't Boba Fett's. In that episode.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that didn't happen. Jeez.
Yeah.
But you know what? The only dangling thing from season 1 is we still didn't get an idea of who that was walking up to Ming-Na's character. It could have been Moff Gideon, but from what I was reading, that I'd have to go back to that episode again, but I think that whoever that character was, I think they had like spurs on their boots or something like that. I don't know.
I read that too. It was apparently, if you listen to like an Empire when Boba Fett shows up, you can hear the same kind of jangling. So that's why they were speculating it might be him. I mean, I'm glad that they didn't. That the Moff Gideon stinger was kind of the last thing that we see on this episode, and it wasn't that like they pan over and further up, hiding on a mountain or looking over that vista is Boba Fett or this mysterious character. They're just leaving this as a thread that, maybe they'll pick up in the middle of season 2. So then we as fans can look back and say, oh my gosh, that's right. There was this mysterious character in season 1 that I totally forgot about. And now they're, relevant and cool again. It was a hell of a way to cap off a season. And I was very happy. I know I had my doubts, and David, you're correct. I know you were giving me some crap earlier about it, but rightfully so. I'll admit that I was a little bit worried in the middle of the season, but now I have full faith in the creative direction and on to season 2.
Yeah, and I think this chapter reminded me that I think sometimes we take the writing for granted a little bit. There's moments here that are almost like kind of touched on like underneath their breath, the character's breath, where it's like, especially when they got into that tunnel where there's the the lava river, and there's this boat, and immediately when you see a boat, and you think the viewer is going to think, how's that going to work in a lava river? Well, they even mention it, because they're like, well, is this going to hold? Is it, is the bottom going to hold? It's not going to, burn up. They even mention something like that. And I appreciate that, because then it makes sense. It feels like a real situation, that they're addressing something that we're thinking. And I think that
new films, yes,
yeah.
Well, unlike the new films, yes. But I think that those are little moments that I think that there's Favreau's really, who wrote this episode, he's really paying attention to detail and paying attention to, like, okay, what would these characters say in this situation? And these are, you have basically 3 characters and a nurse droid who are, experienced, well worn, and who have seen a lot of things. So it would make sense. And it seemed like when Kara started shooting up the boat, it was almost like the boat had melted to the side of the ledge. And I'm like, that's just like a cool little detail. It's like, oh, well, no, there's a reason why this isn't moving, And so, I don't know why that scene kind of just stuck out to me, but it was just all these little attention to detail moments that was pretty cool.
I think it might have stuck out because, I swear to God, I'm not trying to be like, ooh, you liked episode 9. But, like, it's just because, like, these new films didn't think about sort of although it's a complete bastardization of actual science, it knew within a certain suspension of disbelief where to have the audience think about where you're going with your universe, with its science, with its effects, with its place in the story. You're not having people fly around like Mary Poppins in the middle of space. You're not having people force fight a projection of somebody else. They're not just saying, well, fuck it, it's Star Wars. They're actually going, well, how are you going to push this boat in the lava? And they have a throwaway line that is a throwaway line that exists for a reason, that explains something, that doesn't just feel something like the Emperor going, I have died many times. There's like a reason it's there. And because of that, like, we care about that detail. Like, everything seems to exist for a reason. And it feels like this show, since the beginning when I saw that pilot, and I was so over the top, and people going, oh, it's like Firefly. I'm like, I don't care if it's like Firefly. So what? It does a great job of doing what it does. Artists have copied what other artists had done for years. And if you do it right, then it's your own thing. Fuck off, I win.
Look, and I'm guilty as charged. Again, I brought up the Firefly thing.
I didn't mean towards you.
Well, no, but but it circles back to what I was getting at. Like, there are a lot of kind of pop culture callbacks and tropes and things, but they're handled, they're filtered through this lens of real Star Wars imagination. One thing that it was unsettling to me, and it wasn't until we were just talking just now that I realized what was unsettling about that sort of climax in the lava pit, is that the last time we really saw this lava landscape and the rivers of black char was on Mustafar at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And one of the things that the Star Wars universe does, at least in the cinematic universe, usually each planet is a type of a planet. You've got an ice planet, you've got a fire planet, you've got a wood planet or a desert planet.
Anything that's within our atmospheres,
right. But I'm saying it's always just one thing, right? In this case, on Navarro, it's a desert planet. It's very much like Tatooine, but then there's this whole sub-layer of this molten lava environment that, like, wait, what is this? And it's just very cool, and it makes you wonder more about the world and the universe that these people are living in and having to struggle through.
Well, the cool thing about Star Wars is, and something that the filmmakers seem to forget, that Favreau seem to remember is, guess what? You could probably revisit a place like Hoth or a place like Tatooine and have a different environment, whether it be weather or something totally different, because they're planets! There's more than one thing on a planet! Yeah. Sorry, I got worked up. Yeah.
No, it's fine. We only saw Hoth from that one angle from the orbit.
Yeah.
I mean, what if on the other side of it was like a desert planet?
Yeah.
Like a half and half
it could be
gumball
a
or
desert
something.
planet if you go like 100,000 miles north, or south, whatever. Directions. I've added them. That's why I use a GPS. It could have like a Coruscant sort of place. Or that was the thing that I loved about the prequels. It's like the prequels were so close to reaching brilliance. If the writing and the directing was just better, it could have been there, because the world building was phenomenal. You had Aquarius, you had Venice, you had Metropolis in one fucking movie. Right.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think we'll talk a bit more about world building very soon. But for right now, do you have any closing thoughts on? I'm gonna say it right this time, David. Chapter 8.
Woo! Not really. That we haven't always touched upon. I would just say also, once again, rip Quail. Queel? Yeah, Queel. The Queel. And, it was nice. It was nice that they, Mandalorian put his little, rock statue with his goggles on top of it. I mean, it's like, oh, man. I was almost hoping that we would see in this episode, like, that, IG Nurse maybe kind of, saved him, but no, we got to have a loss. And I just wish there was, like I said, one more line where he was just saying, I have spoken or something, but that's all right. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see in season 2 what kind of, we had character actors like, Carl Weather and Nick Nolte in this season. And, what kind of character actors can we expect in season 2? It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. It's going to be a long year. Yeah. All right. How about you, Mike?
I'm so happy that we got a Star Wars series that didn't just feel like Star Wars fan porn, but felt like something that that we wanted in a way that wasn't shallow, but had character to it, had heart to it, and we're excited to see where it goes, because this really is made by fans who can do more than just regurgitate, a familiar story like J.J. Abrams could. And we have a series that is excited to see where it moves forward. And right now, Kathleen Kennedy is probably exactly.
What are you doing, David?
It's like, we need a Star Wars character with a loincloth. Check. Get the Gamorreans.
Yeah, we're gonna have a talking, not Rancor, but a talking
Gamorrean,
Shrek, whatever it is.
Yeah. It does look like Shrek.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
All I know is I just saw a giant pig in a blanket right in my face. Anyway,
hopefully Mike Myers won't be hired to do the voice.
No, this is a show that gets you excited for more, and in terms of story, like the Clone Wars does, and I'm excited to watch more of it. And I'm excited to, I think the Star Wars universe can take a little break from the movies. Kathleen can go over somewhere and get a foot massage in a spa.
All right, leave her alone.
But
we'll talk about Miss Kennedy later.
I'm very satisfied with it. Even with the interchangeable episodes, they are very enjoyable on their own level. So yes, thank you, Jon Favreau. I think the title of Redemption was his redemption for the Lion King, and I think that that's it. That's all.
All right. Well, we have all spoken. So thank you, gentlemen, for a lovely episode 8 recap. And we'll be back very, very soon to talk about the general overall season and the Star Wars landscape, which we've kind of covered a little bit here and there on this episode. So I definitely appreciate your time over the last couple of months. This has been a lot of fun. So thank you, and we'll talk soon. Oh, wait, hold on. Mike, do the thing. Remember, smash the like button, give the thumbs up, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.
I think I scared everybody.
You kind of did. I think you scared the entire internet.
I had flashes of Animal from the Muppets, but
I was just thinking of the younglings were having flashbacks. But yeah, fuck them kids. All right,
yes. Good night.